You're about to hear an exclusive sneak peek into Tony Robbins' Breakthrough Challenge. Offered completely for free, this 5-day transformational event starts Tuesday, January 25th. This will be Tony's third and final time offering this free event. When we first did it in 2020, over 300,000 people attended. It was a shock, but the world had shifted overnight and people needed this more than ever. Last year, we couldn't not do it again because the world hadn't opened back up and it was still needed. We had over 800,000 people attend from all over the world for a week straight. The transformation was unbelievable. This year, Tony is committed to over-delivering on this event for the third and final time, as he believes this is truly the greatest time and opportunity to prosper and thrive. But if you don't have the right tools, it's also a time in which you can be left behind. Watch or listen now as Tony answers 3 participants' questions during last year's free breakthrough event on how to let go of things you cannot control, how to stop self-sabotaging, and how to find your purpose. At any time while you're listening, you think, hey, I need this in my life. Just go to breakthrough2022.com. It's not too late to register.
Lisette, where are you in the world?
My name is Lisette. I'm from Los Angeles.
She's from LA, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh my gosh, it's a dream come true.
Oh, nice to meet you. Thank you for all your passion and enthusiasm. What's your question? I want to see if I can help.
Oh my gosh. Yes, so my question is, how do I persevere of letting go of the things I cannot control and react in a positive mindset?
Okay, that's a great question. My answer is, first of all, realize the truth. Here's the truth. You're not in control, right? You're not God, right? You can influence the external world, but you don't control it. You can't even control your kids, let's be honest. So this idea of control is an illusion. What's real is influence. And influence requires skill. And the first skill you got to learn is to influence yourself. So to be able to change how I think or how I feel in a moment when I don't feel so good is the most important lesson of all. That's why I do this stuff in immersion, because I can explain it to you in a few minutes, right? Like, oh, that makes sense. I need to change my physiology, change my focus, change my language. But what you really need to do is experience doing that day in and day out until all of a sudden it's like anything else you've mastered. It'll just happen. And that's when your life changes. So whether you do it by spending more time with me or not, you can still do it within yourself. But you got to start with, many times we're in pain. We have frustration or overwhelm or sadness or stress because of our expectations. Because if you want to be upset, have lots of expectations of other people, of yourself, of life. So I'm not saying don't expect anything, because we can't do that as humans, but you got to notice that expectations lead to suffering. What you need instead is to focus on appreciating what you have and then figuring out how to expand it, right? And so there are things that you do control. You can control what you focus on. You can control the way you move your body. You therefore can control how you feel. You can control your language. So today you can control coming up with a compelling future or starting to identify parts of yourself that you need to acknowledge more and strengthen more and use more. You're in control of all those things. So it's really your patterns of focus, your patterns of physiology, and your patterns of language that are making you feel this feeling of, I can't control stuff. And it's the illusion that there is control. So think in terms of influence. Influence. How can I influence this better? But start with you. And if you start with learning to influence your body and your focus and your language, you will take control of your mind. Your mind won't run you, you'll run your mind. So I'm not going to do it now because honestly, I want to do it for the whole group, 750,000, I guess it's almost 800,000 people have joined us now. I want to do it with everybody. I'm going to do it on the last day. I'm going to show you a technique that we'll all do together. We're going to take 20 minutes and do it so I know you've all experienced it. And it's a way to get out of your head, into your heart, and get answers like that. Because when you're in your head, you go in circles. Well, what if this happens? Well, I do that, but what if that happens? And it becomes a vicious circle. But when you learn how to process through your heart, because our heart has an intelligence, your heart releases hormones that affect the way your brain feels. So when we switch the order from heart to head instead of head to heart, I know that sounds weird. It'll completely change the way you feel. So 2 things. Focus on what you can control and do it. Second, the things you can't control, that's where, honestly, I believe in prayer. I believe in doing my part times 1,000, but I also believe it's like some things are meant to happen. Now, what I do with it is my choice. But certain situations are meant to happen. I'm not God. And when they happen, it's my job to find an empowering meaning from it, even if it's painful, and find a way to use it for some good. And I know I can find a way because I can influence. But once you start influencing yourself more, you'll find it easier to influence outside of you because you've already done it. Like, it's hard to move people if you're not moved. It's hard to inspire someone if you're not inspired. It's hard to get people to feel certain if you're feeling uncertain, right? So step one, give up the delusion of control, right? I can't even control my bladder completely if there's too much in there, right? 2, decide I'm going to influence. I'm going to be a leader. A person of influence is a leader. What does a good leader do? They have one primary skill if they're a great leader. They influence the thoughts, the feelings, and the actions of another human being. If they're a great leader, they influence thoughts, feelings, and actions for a higher good, not just for themselves. And I can feel you. You're a beautiful soul. You're a light. You got that light. How many feel her energy? How many feel this light energy, this beautiful energy in here, right? Right? So you two are being a little hard on yourself, and we all want to be in control because control makes us feel comfortable. Listen to me, the more you feel, all of us listening, the more you feel you control events versus event controls you, the more self-esteem you have. But the delusion is I control it all. So a big part of succeeding in life, in my opinion, is learning to let go. And I never believed that before. I went through 20 years where I tried to control everything, was stressed out half the time. Now I'm a force of influence, and I learned to appreciate what life is giving me. And then if I don't like all of it, I work on shifting the part that I can control. Is that at all helpful?
Mm-hmm. Extremely helpful.
Super. Okay, sweetheart.
Yes.
Take care of yourself. Thank you. Give her a big hand. One more.
Thank you.
Is it Mika?
Yeah.
Mika, nice to meet you. I think I saw your story last night or this morning. Where do you live?
I'm in White Rock, BC.
Yes. Okay, great. Tell us, what's your question?
I know that I was born with amazingness, and I'm just full of love and magic and abundance and grace, and I love to smile at people and lift them up, and my whole life is just around giving love, and I don't get compensated financially for that, so I'm struggling with how to find my purpose that will pay me.
Well, that's an interesting question. Let me offer you a different way of looking at it, okay? Your love is your gift to the world. I look at my labor is an expression of my love. That's why I'm here. I don't have to work another day in my life. I'm fortunate enough. I've figured that piece out. But, I'm also 60 and I had to figure it out. I sure didn't figure it out when I was 20 and started to figure it out when I was 30. And by the time I was 40, I was doing really well. And then I created more companies, created more stress. And, so life is a journey. But what I'd say to you is I hear people all the time, I got to find my purpose. I got to find my purpose. And I say to people, who says you have one purpose? And who says that your purpose will always pay you? That's not true. There are some things that are intangible that are priceless, and your love and your, you could say, well, boy, you're really humble the way you described yourself, but I actually see it as beautiful because I see the authenticity in you. I know you really care, you really love, you can feel it. I felt it when I was reading your piece and watching, or this morning. So you stood out, so I didn't even pick you just showed up here. It's like amazing. And so I look at that and I go, okay, think of it this way, and I'll repeat this for the main group in a couple of days because it's such an important distinction, but I'll give you an example. My forefathers, we never had food. We were so broke. They'd make money, they'd lose their jobs, or they'd make money, but they spent more than they had. I mean, it was a pretty stressful life. And I remember when I went to Jim Rohn, my teacher, and I was like, I got forefathers, they're good men. How come we don't have money for food? How come we're struggling all the time? All four of them. It's like my mom's always yelling at them, or she dumps one, we go to the next, we go through the same thing again. And he kind of laughed a little bit and he said, Tony, he goes, you need a lesson in understanding the difference between soul and economics. I said, what does that mean? He said, Tony, we're all equal as souls on the planet, right? In our soul, we're the same, but we're not equal in the marketplace. And he said, your fathers are good men. You're not wrong about them being good men. He said, but they did not learn how to become more valuable in the marketplace, and that's why all of you suffered. They're different skills. And if you can find a way to bring what you think your purpose is to something that brings you economics, wonderful, but you got to handle the economics as well. And he said, here's how you do it. He said, think of it this way. He said, if somebody works at McDonald's, I think I brought this up. I said, people at McDonald's only make this, and a school teacher only makes that. And then there's this hedge fund guy that makes $1 billion in a year. And he said, Tony, on the surface, that sounds really unfair. But let's unpack that a moment. If in life and in business and economics are tied to you doing more for others than anybody else in the marketplace, if you add more value to other people, you will be prosperous, but it has to be the value they want, not the value you want to give. He said, so I'll give you an example. You brought up McDonald's. He said, and I don't remember what it was in those days, but it was minimum wage, just like it is now. So maybe that person made $18,000 a year. He goes, Tony, there's a reason. It's not because life is unfair. It's because the level of added value working in McDonald's is very minor because you can teach anybody to do that job literally in a matter of minutes, certainly by hours. Today, they have pictures. You don't even have to be able to read the language. That's how McDonald's is duplicatable. He said, so it doesn't take a lot of skill, so you don't get paid well. But if you develop more skill, he said, you look at the school teacher, she's got more skill. She earns more than McDonald's. Still not as much as the hedge fund guy because she's teaching 30 students. But the hedge fund guy you gave the example of, and I forget which one it was years ago, but he goes, he made $1.5 billion last year. But what did he do to add value? He took the money people had because of his skill and his development over the years. He figured out how to give them a return of almost 38%, almost 40%. That means every 2.5 years they double their money of all they've ever earned. Think about that. He's supporting nonprofits, he's supporting families, he's supporting businesses. He made other people $100 billion and he made almost $2 billion of it. That's a fair deal. So your job is to figure out how to work harder on yourself than anything else and to figure out what skills are needed in this world. So the most important thing is your beingness. So I agree with it. Your love, your joy, you can bring it, but you got to find a vehicle that is appreciated today. So if I go to college today and I spend $300,000 to go to Harvard, and I'm going to study, English lit, I'm never going to see that money back. And I'm going to be one of all those students that are out there with $1.5 trillion worth of debt because they thought their passion was enough. It's not. You have to say, what is needed in the marketplace that I want to learn to give better than anybody else? And if I figure a way to keep improving, keep developing more skill, my gifts will make room for me. That's what Jim Rohn said to me, by the way. He said, Tony, I said, but I'm working so hard. I'm working around the clock. I'm broke, and I don't understand it. I'm working 20-hour days, and I really am. He goes, Tony, it takes time. You're building a new momentum, and you're not there yet. And if you give up because you're frustrated, you'll never get there. He said, listen to me. Work hard, keep improving yourself, and your gifts will make room for you. And I'm here to tell you he was absolutely right, and your gifts will make room for you. You have a gift, I would call it a gift of beautiful state. You're a loving person, you're an uplifting person, you're an empathetic person, you want to give to people. You don't need to stop any of that. You just got to say, I need to go experiment and find a vehicle where I can do that and also be paid and be paid handsomely so that I can produce economic freedom on top of the joy that I get to experience in life. And so you need to go test some things out. Oftentimes people pick a job like to become a lawyer and then they're miserable because they never really experienced what being a lawyer was. It was the image in their mind or what they thought that would mean or the respect or something. So what do you do currently and what would you like to do?
I am a holistic nutritionist and I would love to coach. I've actually applied for your next coaching program in February, I believe it begins.
Great. And so if you were a coach, what do you want to earn? What are you needing to earn for your life to be in balance and you be happy?
For me to be in balance and happy, $100,000 a year. For me to be able to contribute at the level that I want to contribute, I would need to earn at least $1 million a year.
Okay. So I want you to know that we are as human. First of all, I'm not negating anything you said. I want you to get whatever you want. I'm the last person that would say drop down, but I want to give you a choice of perspective. Human beings are the worst creatures on the planet for knowing what's really going to make them happy. They think I'm going to make $100,000, I'll be happy. I'll make $1 million, make them happy. Who here always had a number in your head and you got that number and it still wasn't enough? Raise your hand so she can see and you can see. Make some noise if the number always goes up. Say aye. you're going to get there and it won't be enough still because something else is driving you. It isn't just economics, right? You're wanting to have a certain level of significance. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's a human need. But right now, you think that will give you the significance, and I'm here to tell you it will for a short time. I want you to think right now of a goal or a dream you once had, all of you. Think of a goal or dream that you thought about, were excited about, pushed yourself about, and then you achieved it.
It's right now.
Okay, well, that's a good one. Now, the question, though, is when you achieve the goal, how'd you feel? So I can see how you're feeling right now.
I feel fantastic.
But then here's the question. How long will this feeling last? How long will this feeling of achieving this goal last? Whether it's this goal or whether it was making $100,000 a year or $1 million a year. All of you listening right now, I want you to really think. Think of a goal you achieve. Some goals you achieve, and then you achieve and your brain goes, is this all there is? Like, that's even worse than failing because now you succeeded and you're unhappy. But think of one where you really were happy. Did you stay happy for a year? 6 months? Raise your hand if you stayed happy for a year when that thing happened in your life that you achieved. 2 people, 3, 4. How many stayed happy for 6 months because of that achievement? 2 or 3. How many stayed happy for 3 months? A month? A week? A couple of freaking days? Okay. Raise your hand if you stayed happy at most, for most of you, for a few days to a few weeks before it wore off once you achieved something. Raise your hand if that's true. Say aye. Say aye. So I want you to see that goal is not to achieve your goal. The goal is for you to grow. Because what makes us feel like, people ask me all the time, what does it take to be happy? And I'm sure I'll repeat this to the main group because we've got to let them know what you know. Progress equals happiness. If you're overweight and you're still not there, but you're making progress, you're going to be happy. If your relationship's not great, but you're doing something to improve it, you're going to feel happy. Progress. When you achieve the goal, your happiness does not last because we're not made to just sit around and be happy. We're made to grow because when we grow, we have something to give. So I don't think there's anything wrong with your goals. And for example, we have tons of coaches that make $100,000 or more. Some have made as much as $250,000. So there's definitely, you're entering a profession where that's doable for sure. I charge $1 million to coach one person. And I started coaching 7 people at a time, and now I only do 3 a year, and I got a 6-year waiting list. I don't want more. So there's no limit to what you can do if you can add enough value. But you got to make sure you can add value in what they need, not what you want to give. That's the biggest mistake in people's businesses. People will say, oh, I love my product or service. Like, screw that. Fall in love with your clients. Don't fall in love with your product or service because your product or service is going to need to change, right? So for you, coaching can take you there. Nothing wrong with your goals. But here's what I'd also say. If someday you're going to feel great when you achieve these goals, then why wait? Because all that's going to happen is you're going to get that number, and then you're going to tell yourself, okay, it's time to feel good and celebrate, and you'll do it. Well, why not celebrate now? Because that'll give you the energy to get there quicker. Does that make sense?
Do.
Give her a hand, everybody. Thank you very much. Give her a big hand. What's your name?
Susana.
Susanna, nice to meet you. Where are you in the world, Susanna?
I am from Mexico, Mazatlan.
Oh, wonderful. Give it up for Mexico, ladies and gentlemen. Give it up. What's your question, Susanna?
I always sabotage myself. So I want to stop self-sabotaging myself.
Okay.
And
So
I don't know how to do that, or what do I need to do in order to cut it.
Okay. So first of all, one of the things that we do with our minds is the human mind tends to do 3 things if you want to jot it down. We generalize, we distort, and we delete things. The reason we generalize, distort, and delete things is because the human brain has incredible capacity. But your brain can only focus on so many things consciously at once. Like right now, there's all kinds of things going on that your brain is doing without your awareness. It's making your heart beat 100,000 times a day. It's pushing your blood through 100,000 miles of blood vessels. That's what's inside you if you put them end to end. So most of what goes on is unconscious. But your conscious mind can only handle so many things. So in order to make life simpler, we generalize. We distort things. We make them bigger or smaller, or we delete. So for example, for you to say, I sabotage all the time is probably not true. That's probably being overly generalized or distorted. And when you make a statement like that over and over again, you start to believe it. Like, I don't know where the salt is, I don't know where the salt is, I don't know where the salt is, and it's right in front of you, right? So do you sabotage all the time, or where do you tend to sabotage?
Yeah, that's true. Specifically in my body, like for example, when I reach my goal, then I start to eating again, for example.
Yes.
And lost it. Or in relationships, even I already know like what kind of man is not good for me. I go there and I take that man.
Well, so what you're really telling me, what you call sabotage is I go for pleasure all the time. And so, for example, the type of man you like, tell me, is it a bad boy? Who is it?
Yeah, bad boy.
Yeah, of course. And the reason a bad boy you respond to is, everyone has both masculine and feminine energy, right? You have them both, I have them both. Man or woman, doesn't matter. But you're born with one that's dominant. I'm not talking about sexuality, I'm talking about energy. And what makes us feel alive is opposite energies. So this earth has a north and south pole, they're opposite energies. That's how life exists on earth. If you put a plug in the wall, you got most parts of the world, you have two plugs, and that alternate energy is what creates the electricity, right? So for you, you're a feminine woman, but at the same time, it appears you run your life. Are you the kind of person that is in charge of your life? Would you describe yourself that way? Yes.
Yeah.
So you use your masculine a lot, which is great. We all should be able to use everything. I use my feminine a lot as well as my masculine. Otherwise, I couldn't work with everybody. But your core need in a relationship is to allow your feminine to be able to let go and not have to be masculine every moment. So you're looking for a masculine man, but the problem is you haven't made the distinction between true masculine and an immature masculine. A lot of women do this. They get a safe man. They get a man that's really safe and secure because they've been hurt by men before, like men where they thought were masculine. They were just immature masculine. Immature masculine wants what it wants. By the way, there's immature feminine that wants what she wants, no matter what. Men will use power or influence or economics. Women will often use sexuality or influence or economics. Everybody's different. So that person's in it for themselves. That's an immature masculine, immature feminine. But you're wanting that energy of a man who owns himself, a man who knows where he's going, a man who's not going to be shaken. If you get a man that you can manipulate, if you get a man that you can control, women like him in the beginning, and then they get pissed off at him because they don't trust him. Because if I can manipulate him, so can another woman. So you're wanting a man you can't manipulate, a man with strength, but the distinction is a bad boy appears to have that strength, but then you get in a relationship and he doesn't give a damn about you. You need a mature masculine. You need a man who owns himself and isn't trying to do it by taking from you. A man who will push through for you, a man who will not just be a pleaser, because that's what makes women crazy. So it's not that you're sabotaging yourself. It's that you're conditioned to respond to that energy. When you do it around your body, it's the same thing. You're wanting pleasure. So if you want to change this, you have to change your conditioning. So, for example, is there a form of food or a dessert or a form of alcohol that you used to love? I mean, that dessert, that alcohol, that food you used to love, and then one day you had an experience years ago that was really painful, or you drank that alcohol, ate that food, and it came out multiple locations of your body in a very painful way, and as a result, you can't even stomach the thought of that form of alcohol or that dessert. Do you have anything in your life where you used to love it and then you had a bad experience, and now it takes no willpower? Willpower is just, I'm not going there. Do you have an area like that?
Yes. No, with alcohol, but yes.
Okay. What did you say it was with? What?
It was not with alcohol. It was with a fruit.
It was a fruit. Okay, great. What was it?
I don't know how to say in English, but.
Okay, no problem. So this fruit you used to love, and then you had a bad experience, and now if you think of the fruit, does it take willpower to not use it, or you have no desire?
No desire.
And here's why. In a moment, your conditioning was changed. What happened is the pain of that experience got you linked pain to what you used to link pleasure to. You follow me? And so once you link enough pain, you'll avoid it. And it happened literally in a night. You can consciously do that by looking at the men you've been through and going, no, I don't want any of that. I do want that energy, but I don't want that. And the same thing with your body. You can take the things you're addicted to that are not good for you, and just using willpower will never last. Because when you get stressed, when you feel lonely, when you're feeling overwhelmed, when you're feeling stressed, you're going to want to feel good, and you know it works for the moment. And so your brain is not sabotaging so much. It's just going for pleasure, and you have to change what you link pain and pleasure to. So I didn't, early on, I was always overweight. I didn't like to work out. But then I got myself, I said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to work out every day for a minimum of 9 months. And then if I don't want to work out again, I'll say, screw it, I'll do it whenever I want. But when you do something for 9 months, it gets in your nervous system and you feel good after you, every morning in my life, I have my home's here, I have a cold plunge, 56 degrees. When I'm in my home in Sun Valley, I have the river, which in the winter I walk through the snow and I go first thing in the water, into the water, and it's usually around 42, 43 degrees. I have never looked forward to doing this, and I do it every day. Why? Because I've trained my brain not to negotiate with myself. I've trained my brain, first of all, I'm doing this because it makes my whole body, every cell in your body comes alive when you hit that temperature change in your body. It feels terrible at first, and when you get out, it feels like $1 million. But I got to get over that. So what I did is I just trained myself. See, I hear people all the time say, well, I don't feel like doing this. I got to, I'm not really ready, right? If I waited till I felt good to do things, I wouldn't have it. I've trained myself to do it. And when you do it enough times, I get that. I don't go, oh, it's cold, or I'll do it in a moment. I've trained myself. When I say go, we go. And I've conditioned myself. Just like that conditioning on the fruit for you avoid it, you can also condition to do something. So all you need to learn is to condition yourself to link pain to some of those foods and to those men, and pleasure to something new, and then you'll have new habits. That's all you got to do. You need some new habits. And on the men, make the distinction between immature masculine, guy just wants what he wants, and a guy that knows how to take you, but at the same time is loving on you and is not doing it just for him. Like when you really love somebody, you want to light them up, and you want to do things for them, to them, with them, that make them feel incredible. That's what you need to look for. But what's happening, you're in a loop. I want the pleasure of a relationship, and then it's painful. And what's painful, then I'm going to reach for food because I want some pleasure, but it's painful. All you have to do is develop a pattern of conditioning. Figure out what you want to link pain to about those men and go in your body, see it, feel, anchor it, link it. What do I want instead? Do that for 7 days, and you'll feel different about these men. You can do the exact same thing with the foods as well. Change what you link pain and pleasure to. Is that helpful?
Awesome. Yes. Thank you so
Give her a hand, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Tony Robbins Podcast. We hope it gave you an idea of what attending the Breakthrough Challenge can do for you. Because this is your year to have your own breakthroughs in your career, your income, your health, and your relationships. So join us starting January 25th to make 2022 your best year yet. To sign up for this life-changing, free, transformative event, go to breakthrough2022.com. We hope to see you there.